Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
We're so thrilled to have on the show an incredible singer, songwriter, and guitarist. You've probably already heard his music, as I have. Stephen Wilson Jr. Stephen, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Eric.
You know, I feel like, we've been trying to book you on the show for like months now, but between touring and all these other major interviews, you've been kind of busy with Son of Dad, your most recent album.
Yeah, it's kept me on the road a good bit. I'm sorry.
I'm not sorry at all. I mean, once again, I told you before we came in studio, listening to this album, Stephen, the lyrics, the music, everything, I mean, what an incredible album to put out, with your new label and everything. I mean, fans, you're selling out shows. You're headlining shows.
I know. It's a lot has changed quickly since I put out this album in September of last year through Big Loud, and yeah, it's changed my life, and it's been something I've been working on though for years. I spent 5 years making this record. My father passed away 5 years ago, and literally the second after he died, I felt like I started writing it. I really just started keeping record of the experience. I love that we call albums records still, because that's what it is to me. It's like a record of time. Every band that's ever put out a record is just a record of where they were at that time.
Yeah.
And this Son of Dad is a record of where I was at that time.
Yeah, and what a great way to market. And I know also, with your signature line, every time you open up a show too, the line that you always say.
Yeah, I am Stephen Wilson Jr. and I am my father's son. Yeah.
What a poignant statement.
Yeah, well, it's just very much true, and it's a revelation and an epiphany and a statement at the same time.
And with Son of Dad, you co-produced this album also, and we were talking before we came down to the studio, to where you recorded part of it at Farmland here in Nashville, but also in Detroit.
Correct.
So it was like recorded between 2 or 3 studios and all.
Yep, it is. It's kind of a mixture of Nashville and Detroit. I did all the band sessions here in Nashville, and then went up to Detroit with Ben West, who I co-produced the record with. Just an incredibly talented human being, and just one of the best humans as well. He just really, there was just nobody better to take this on. And I'd go up to Detroit and we would work on it, and we basically carved away at it for 4 or 5 years on the sonic side and the production side, not just the lyrics and the writing and all that. There was a lot of work put into the production.
Well, I think you can hear it and see it in what you've done. 22 tracks, and so the record, 3 vinyls to make this work.
Yeah, I know.
Kind of a big deal.
Well, yeah, I wanted I had a lot to say. 20 songs wasn't enough, I guess. I just kept writing them, and back to the record keeping protocol that I used. I kind of get 20 songs, and it just wasn't quite there yet. And then 22 was the end. That's when I knew it was done. And it's not to say that every album I'll put out would be that big, but that was really what was necessary to kind of say everything I wanted to say coming out of the gate. And like I said before, I spent 5 years really making this record, and so it really needed to represent a long period of time. And it's really the story of my life up to that point. So there's a lot before that as well.
Right. Well, in the songs too, it's like, there's so many, we were talking about your musical influences, and I think you can hear a lot of them to where, sometimes you get categorized as country, but also, and certainly you tour with country artists, and a number of country artists have recorded your songs, including Brothers Osborne and Tim McGraw and others. But there's also, there's rockin' feel in here, and there's even, I feel kind of, a few of the songs are a nod to John Mellencamp, also from Seymour, Indiana.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before you moved here to Nashville. And so how did you pull all this together with all those styles?
Yeah. Well, Mellencamp was the soundtrack to my hometown. I grew up hearing his music in the womb. And so really that's kind of some of the first music I remember. And I love that John's a painter, because he he was painting my hometown with songs, and I was living in that hometown, so I was able to just like look around and be like, oh man, this guy's nailing it. You know, like I was literally living in the painting or the song that he was singing, and so I really learned so much just by proxy of living in that town and watching him do his work, even though I had no association with him. And just seeing how he could paint a town so genuinely, so effectively, and watching another person do that just tells you, well, maybe I could do that too. So then that was just such a starting point, a fundamental starting point for my songwriting, watching him do that. So I've always just tried to paint songs, or they're like mini movies in my head. And then as I got older, I got into bands like Soundgarden. Soundgarden taught me how to play guitar. I have to say, like a friend of mine gave me the Super Unknown tablature that was really thick, and I learned every song, and I learned all the tunings, and that's why I play with a bunch of weird open tunings. And they really taught me that the guitar has more than just EAD, GBE, and you can do a lot more with it. And the low tunings and the drop tunings were actually more suitable for my voice of where my range was. And you can alter the guitar, and really in the compositions and the arrangements, they weren't just writing, here's a 3-minute song. Like every song was an arrangement. It was a journey, kind of like a musical journey. And so I have to give them a lot of credit too. And then other indie bands like Death Cab for Cutie and the National, and like that sonic tapestry of how they approached music, a lot of space, a lot of abstract lyricism as well, and just really built around an understated groove sometimes, but then also would become very overstated. It went between these two worlds of understatement and overstatement.
Well, you know, and I think one of the other unique things about your music, Stephen, and certainly I think that draws a lot of us to your music and your songs, is kind of the unorthodox Takamine nylon string guitar through Fender amplifiers and guitar pedals. Not typically what you hear from a lot of artists. Yeah,
that's kind of the sonic youth kind of in the Soundgarden coming out. Yeah, I love a tube screamer. I love distortion. I want to play that. I play it with a pick, and like a thick bass pick, like a 1 millimeter or an 88 or something. And you know, I play it like a Telecaster with my right hand. At least that's what I want to do. And but, you know, Al Di Meola showed me a lot about, you know, how you could play a guitar with a pick and how you could control dynamics on a gut string. And but you know, I use a little bit more of an effect-driven approach and a little bit more just straight through an amp. You know, Willie Nelson did that too with the Baldwins. These are tube amps, but versus solid state. But you know, I also love the sonic tapestry of indie music and like all the reverbs, the Johnny Greenwoods, and the National, and several other indie bands. There's just usually a bit of an etherealness to it that I like to implement into the gut string and into the song.
It's such a great sound, and I've got to ask you this too, Stephen, that some of our viewers may not realize that, you know, you started out boxing at only 5 years old. Do you feel like that discipline and Golden Gloves, and obviously your father was a boxer, Golden Gloves. In fact, one of the pieces of merch is a poster, you know, and also he's in the album. Do you feel like the discipline from boxing helped you when you started playing guitar, you know, at 15 and started doing the songwriting? Do you think that helped you then?
Oh yeah. Like my first stage was a boxing ring. It wasn't, and I was real shy as a kid, so that, you know, my dad would put on shows. That's what he would say. He, like, when he'd go out to fight, because we'd open up for his shows. Like, they'd have kids open up the fights for the adults. So I grew up watching him fight, and grew up in those environments and in boxing gyms. And there's a lot of discipline and a lot of self-discipline in boxing. It's a solitary sport, and music's a solitary sport. They call it shadow boxing for a reason, because you're kind of boxing yourself, like you're your own worst enemy. I feel like that's the same mentality for the music business. Like you can be your own worst enemy, and it's really you really kind of have to rely on yourself, and your own instincts to navigate a lot of it. And then there's the discipline and the getting knocked down component, that metaphor, which a lot of people have used ad nauseum about the music industry, but it very much applies with the boxing metaphor, because you get beat up all the time, and you just really keep pushing forward. And you got to be a bit of a rejection failure junkie in this business, because you will just fail over and over again. You just got to keep getting back up and believing in yourself, which that was one of the biggest lessons I think my father taught me, and keeping the bar so high from a pressure cooker standpoint.
Right.
Because once you step through the ropes in the ring, like to say fight for the Golden Gloves, once you especially start fighting grown men, that intensity is so high. Like, so when you get to a venue like Royal Albert Hall or the Ryman or the Grand Ole Opry, like it takes it and it kind of shrinks it all down.
Right.
Because nothing is going to compare to that, at least in my mind right now.
Totally.
It's you. Unless you fight another grown man and for 3-minute rounds in front of a
So it's like you're fighting
people.
with yourself, particularly as deep as your lyrics are too, Stephen. It's like, I just, listening to the whole album and listening to the individual songs, it's like you're sharing deep. These are not, it's not like shallow, you know what I mean? I mean, all of the songs, on this album, it feels like you're really sharing of yourself, just as you do when you box, just in a different way.
Yeah, boxing is very vulnerable. Like, you're putting all yourself out there. You're putting it all on the line. You're leaving nothing in that ring. And that's, I use that same approach with the pen and the performance on stage. I put it all out there, and I leave it all out there.
Well, speaking leaving it all out there, obviously with the headlining tour that continues to sell out on all of the dates, you're also going over across the pond to the UK.
Yes, sir.
And you're going to be playing a solo gig at the Royal Albert Hall in July.
Yeah, opening for Joss Stone. It's going to be crazy. And I'm going to do it by myself. It'll be the dragon I have not fought yet. That room is so incredible and so overwhelming in the best way. And I can't wait to be overwhelmed by it again.
Well, and I've got to bring up too, you're also going to have some major announcements coming up for the fall tours as well,
Yes,
with artists that have recorded some of your songs, and you will be out on tour with.
Yeah, Brothers Osborne. I'll be out with them. Yeah, it'll be a real good time. We've done a few shows already this year, and we got quite a few more for the rest of the year. And I love those guys so much. We actually met in the writing room, and they're the first band to ever bring me out on tour. Like, they brought me out on a tour when I had one song out, I had nothing going for me, and I am like eternally grateful to them. They talk about rock and roll heroes as well in the guitar world, but just incredible humans. And
well, and also, Stephen, I got to bring up, coming from having a college band to then, and certainly you have a degree.
Yes, sir.
In chemistry and microbiology, from MTSU?
Yes, sir.
And so, you've got all that going, and then, instead of being handcuffed to that job, you decided to throw it all into music.
Yeah.
I think it's been the right choice.
I don't know, the jury's still out, so we'll find out. The day is still young.
I think you've made the right choice. I mean, particularly with Son of Dad, and you're already working on new songs for the next album, and the tours keep getting bigger. It's just a great body of work you've created already, and it seems like you're in the right space, and you're working with the right people.
Well, thank you. I'm just trying to keep my head down and get after it, and also keep working on the new music. The story is to be continued, and I can't wait to continue the story.
Well, I want to make sure, Stephen, for our viewers, for your website, for social media, to come see you live, to check out the cool merch, and also the poster of your dad from the Golden Gloves that's on the website also. Yeah. Where do they need to go for all things Steven Wilson Jr.? You
will need to go to StevenWilsonJr.music.com, or you can go to my Instagram page, Steven.Wilson.Jr. It's Steven with a PH. It's annoying. And Wilson like the volleyball, and Jr. like Dale Earnhardt or something. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, Junior. It's
Junior,
but
JR.
But it's also, it's a very nice nod to your father. I'll tell you what. However you consume music, whether it's through digital or album, you need to download and add this to your playlist. Son of Dad. All the songs are great on here. I can't tell you which one's my favorite really because they're all incredible. But also go see Steven live. And I think you're really going to appreciate that even more with the energy he brings to the music, just like he did in the ring. And so,
thank you, Eric.
Yeah, great album. I don't know how you're going to top this. I mean, good luck. We're all counting on you. But
No pressure.
no pressure at all.
Well, I'll do my best, whether I top it or not. I'm just going to continue it. I'm not going to compete with it. I'll give you that. It's already won. So
Right.
I'm just happy it's out there.
I'll tell you what,
grateful for it.
It's incredible. Son of Dad, like I said, be sure and check out all the music, but also go to the website, go to the social media, go see Steven Wilson Jr. live. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Eric.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.